Hello dear students, welcome to our new video lecture. In this video, we are going to study the homeostasis, feedback mechanism and different feedback systems in the body. These are positive and negative feedback systems. In the previous lecture, we have studied introduction to human anatomy and physiology, levels of structural organization, different systems in the body, basic life processes. Okay, and in this video we will study very important topic of this unit, that is homeostasis. If you want to watch previous video, then you can find the link in the description box. Okay, let's start this session. Now, what is homeostasis? It is the ability of the body to maintain an equilibrium within its internal environment when dealing with external changes. Okay, here two terms need to understand. First is the internal environment and second is the external changes. Okay, internal environment means what? The environment, the conditions which are present inside the body, like body temperature, blood pressure, then fluid balance, blood sugar level, electrolyte balance, hormone condition, then oxygen level, protein condition. So these are the internal environment, internal condition present in the human body, right? Then external changes means what? The environmental changes. Okay, external environmental changes that occur outside the body. So whenever the external environmental change occur, temperature get increase or decrease, in summer season temperature get increase, in winter season temperature reduces. So according to the external environment changes, the internal environment need to be maintain its equilibrium, right? So because body temperature, the normal body temperature is 37 degrees Celsius, and the body needs 37 degrees Celsius for its survival, right? So body need to maintain its constant values, constant variable. So this homeostasis is important to maintain this equilibrium, maintain this constant value in the body. Okay, so homeo means stable, stasis stable or same. Stasis means condition. Okay, so homeostasis is nothing but the stable condition. To maintain a stable condition in the body is nothing but the homeostasis. Now, homeostasis involves many variables including body temperature, fluid balance, blood pressure, blood sugar level, electrolyte, energy, hormones, oxygen, and proteins. Okay, so these are different variables need to be maintained in the body. Now, there is a system which maintain this whole homeostasis in the body, which is known as the feedback system. Okay, now what is the definition of feedback system? Feedback system is a cycle in which the status of body condition is monitored, evaluated, changed, remonitored, re-evaluated, and so on. That means we have seen the various variables are present inside the body. They need to be maintained. They need to be controlled in the body, right? In the internal environment. Now, if any changes occur in that variable, particular variable, for example, say body temperature, so any change occur in the body temperature, that change need to be monitored, right? That change need to be evaluated, how much amount of variation is occurred in the body temperature. So it need to be evaluated. If the higher amount of variation is occur, then it need to be changed, right? To for this for the regular mechanism of the body, right? So feedback system, what is the function of feedback system? Monitor, evaluate and change the internal variables which are present in the body. Okay, so each monitored variable such as body temperature, blood pressure or blood glucose level is termed as the controlled condition. Okay, they need to be controlled in the body. Okay, now any for the maintenance of feedback system, the word stimulus is important. Okay, any disruption or disturbance that changes a controlled condition is called a stimulus. controlled condition are what? Body temperature, blood pressure, blood glucose level, then oxygen level, protein level, electrolyte level. These are the variables, these are the control condition. If any changes occur in these control condition, that change is known as the stimulus. Okay, so this stimulus is important for the further mechanism of the feedback system. Okay, now there are three basic components of the feedback system. First is the receptor, second control center, receptor, control center, and the effector. Okay, now we will see these components one by one. First is the receptor. What is the function of receptor? It will receive the signal. Okay, it is the body structure. Receptor is a body structure that monitors changes. It monitors the changes in the controlled condition and sends input to the control center. Okay, receptor will monitor the changes. Changes is nothing but the stimulus, so stimulus will be monitored by the receptor, and any stimulus is coming to the receptor will be monitored by the receptor, and it will send the input signal to the control center. Okay, now here the input signals can be in the form of nerve impulse or in the form of chemical signals, or we can say chemical messenger. Okay, it can be a chemical messenger which is an input signal which is going to the control center. Okay, first is the receptor, second control center. Okay, now what is control center? Control center, it sets the range of values within which control condition should be maintained. Okay, then control center evaluates the input it receives from the receptors and generates output command when they are needed. Okay, stimulus is nothing but the change occur in the body, right? That change will be monitored by the receptor, and receptor send the input in the form of nerve impulse or the chemical signals to the control center. Okay, now control center will think on that input signal, whether that stimulus is bearable, whether that, if suppose body temperature is the change in body temperature is the stimulus which is monitored by the receptor, and then the receptor send the input signal to the control center. If the temperature is bearable, then it will not produce any effect, any reactive effect, right? Control center will not send any reactive, that means reactive signal, that means output. Okay, if it is very much high, if it is if it can cause major change in the body, then it will send output signal to the effector. Okay, now again these output signals are in the form of nerve impulse or the chemical signals or the chemical messenger. Okay, now the output signal will go to the effector. Now what is effector? Effector have the ability to produce response, they have ability to give the reactive signal, give the reaction. Okay, here you can see it is a body structure that receives output from control center and produces a response or effect that changes the controlled condition. Okay, so output signal will come to the effector. Effector will bring the changes, it will response that it will give the response that alter the controlled condition. Okay, now the temperature will come to the normal. Okay, this is the feedback system. Okay, now there are two types of feedback systems present in the body. First is the negative feedback system and second is the positive feedback system. Okay, if let us see the definition of negative feedback system. Okay, negative feedback is a type of regulation in biological system in which the end product of the process in turn reduces the stimulus of that same process. Okay, negative, you can remember negative reduction, it will reduce. it will reduce the stimulus is negative, and positive will increase the stimulus. Okay, so negative have ability to reduce the stimulus, and positive have ability to increase the stimulus. Okay, negative feedback, the end product of this process in turn reduces the stimulus of that same process. Positive feedback is a process that occurs in feedback loop that increases the effect of a small disturbance. Okay, now we will see these systems one by one. First is the negative feedback system. Negative feedback system reduces the stimulus. Okay, now we'll see the definition. A negative feedback system reverses a change in a controlled condition. It reverses the change in a controlled condition. So for example, consider the regulation of blood pressure. You have to remember the example of negative feedback system is regulation of blood pressure. Okay, now what is blood pressure? Before that you need to know what is blood pressure. Blood pressure is nothing but the pressure exerted by the blood on the walls of the blood vessel. Okay, pressure or the force exerted by the blood on the walls of blood vessel. Okay, when the heart beats faster or harder, the blood pressure get increases. If some internal or external stimulus causes blood pressure to rise, the following sequence of events occur. Okay, so let us see this diagram one by one for the better understanding of the negative feedback mechanism. We have seen in the feedback system there are three main components: receptor, control center, and effector. Okay, now negative feedback system and positive feedback system are the type of the feedback system, right? So both of them, negative and positive feedback system, have all the three components, that is receptor, control center, and effector. But according to the examples, the receptor, control center, and effector get changed. Okay, so in the negative feedback system, we have seen the definition of negative feedback system is what? It reduces the stimulus, right? So here blood pressure regulation is an example. Now blood pressure regulation, for that we have taken increasing blood pressure. Okay, as the blood pressure increases means what? The pressure exerted by blood on the walls of the blood vessel get increases. Now why it will get increase? When a person when person have any stress, or if he perform any exercise, then at that time the blood pressure may get increased. Okay, so that blood pressure increases means what? It is the disruption in the stimulus, right? It is the change in the homeostasis, so it generates the stimulus. Now that stimulus is monitored by the receptor, right? Here receptor is the baroreceptor. Okay, which receptor? Baroreceptors. Now these baroreceptors are present in the walls of blood vessel. Okay, most of the baroreceptors are present in the aortic blood vessels. Okay, aortic arc, in the aortic arc baroreceptors are present. So whenever the pressure increases, baroreceptors monitor the changes. They receive the stimulus, and that stimulus then they send as an input signal to the control center. Okay, here brain is the control center. Okay, they receive the input in the form of nerve impulse, and they will send it to the control center. Here control center is the brain. Now brain will think on that stimulus, will think on that change. Okay, and it will send output signal to the effector. Okay, again these output signal are in the form of nerve impulse. Okay, now here effector output signal to the effector, right? Control center will send the output signal to the effector. Here effectors are the heart and blood vessel. Why heart and blood vessels are the effector here? Because we are studying about the blood pressure is exerted on the walls of the blood vessel and walls of the heart, right? So effector are here heart and blood vessel. Okay, so to reduce the blood pressure, suppose this is the blood vessel, blood is moving in the blood vessel, right? The blood is exerting a pressure on the walls of the blood vessel, right? Okay, so it exert the blood pressure on the walls of blood vessel. So as the blood pressure increases, more amount of pressure is get applied on the walls of the blood vessel. When suppose if the blood vessel get dilated, right, this is the normal lumen size of the blood vessel. When it get dilated, the lumen get increased, lumen size get increased, right? As the lumen get increases, the pressure exerted by the blood on the wall of the blood vessel get reduced, right? So effector what will do, it will dilate the blood vessel, it will relax the heart, so that the pressure exerted by the blood on the walls of heart and blood vessel will get reduced. So it will decrease the heart rate, it will decrease the blood pressure, and homeostasis get returned to the normal condition. Okay, so this is the example of negative feedback mechanism. Negative feedback mechanism means what? It reverses a change in control condition. Example for negative feedback mechanism is regulation of blood pressure. Okay, and in the regulation of blood pressure, receptor is the baroreceptor, control center is brain, and effectors are heart and blood vessel. Okay, you need to remember all these three components. Okay, next system. Okay, this is the explanation, overall explanation of the negative feedback mechanism. Next system is the positive feedback mechanism. Positive is opposite to the negative feedback mechanism. In the negative feedback mechanism, it reduces the stimulus. In the positive feedback mechanism, it will increase the stimulus. Okay, it will strengthen or reinforce a change. Okay, it will increase the change in the in one of the body's controlled condition. Okay, an example of the feedback positive feedback mechanism, positive feedback system is normal childbirth. Example of positive feedback mechanism is normal childbirth. Firstly, we will see the definition of positive feedback mechanism. A positive feedback system tends to strengthen or reinforce a change in one of the body's controlled conditions. A positive feedback system operates similarly to the negative one, except for how the response affects the controlled condition. A control center still provides command to an effector, but this time the effector produces physiological response that adds to or reinforces the initial change in the controlled condition. Okay, that means it will increase the response.